will turn to English because you know a lot of languages, Domingo, but I don't think you know Swedish yet. No. So happy to have you here for this premiere talk, and we have a new production of La Traviata in the house, and this opera is of course in fact Verdi's most popular opera, and it had its premiere in Venice in 1853, and we have in this house played it since 1868, and this will be our 7th production. And I'm very happy to have some of the most important people behind this production here tonight. I'm very happy to have Ellen Lamm, the director. You have been here before. We have done 3 productions here before, but this is the first production on the main stage. So happy to have you here. And Domingo Hindoyan. You are known to our audience for Aida performances and also Verdi's Requiem that you did a couple of years ago in Berwaldhallen with us. And also Bror Magnus Tødenes. Is that correct pronunciation?
Yes.
Yes. Our Norwegian tenor who is singing Alfredo in this production. And this is your first Alfredo. So we are very, very happy. My name is Katarina Aronsson, and I am dramaturg and head of programming here at the opera. So I think we should give them some applause, please. So I think I would like to start with you, Bror Magnus.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You come from Norway, from a place called Eiksund.
Yes.
On the west coast of Norway. You started your singing training in Trondheim when you were 17, and then you moved to Rome in 2014 and sang at Conservatorio di Musica Santa Cecilia.
Yeah.
And then you won a very prestigious singing competition, Renata Tebaldi singing competition.
Yeah.
And then you started your international career. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, pretty well.
Well, when I hear you sing, and when we hear you sing, it sounds like you sort of were born with this voice. It seems as it's so natural for you to sing. But has it been like that all the time, or when did you sort of understand that you wanted to be an opera singer?
Well, I'm very happy that it sounds like it's very natural. I always strive to try and make it sound natural. I don't think a manufactured sound is very attractive, and I try to make it as conversational as possible at the same time that I'm projecting my voice. So, but what was the second question?
The question was, when did you sort of understand, I want to be a singer, I want to be an opera singer?
Yeah, well, that was quite late, actually. I started with piano when I was 5. My mother taught me, and then I started lessons when I was old enough. I was 8. Then I started music school, and then I continued for a few years until I was 12. Then I started playing guitar. So I played a lot of rock music, a lot of that kind of music. And then I went to high school in a music program where my main instrument was guitar. And I already knew a bit of piano, so I had also piano as my secondary instrument.
Did you sing to the guitar also? Did you use your voice? Or?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, but not like, it wasn't I wasn't singing at all, really, at this point. But I had to have a secondary instrument more in high school, and that was singing. And my singing teacher said that I had a very good instrument, and I should change my main instrument to singing, and sing opera. And I've been doing everything except opera up until that point. So I was doing big band stuff and playing jazz on the guitar and classical on the piano, but never opera. So
then you were?
Then I was 16.
16, okay.
16, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we made a bet with my teacher. I got an opportunity to go to a audition for a talent program in Trondheim for classical singing, and I thought, okay, if I get into this program, I will believe her, and I will change my main instrument. And I went there thinking nothing. I was thinking, okay, I'm never going to get in there. Don't bother me with this classical singing anymore. But then I got in, and then I kind of, okay, maybe I'll try. So and it went pretty well so far. So
it seems to be quite straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a couple of years ago, quite early on in your career, you made a CD recording called Remembering Jussi, and that's of course Jussi Björling.
Yes.
So is that an idol or sort of a role model for you?
Oh,
or?
100%, yeah. It's one of the greatest singers in history.
Yeah. What can you learn from Jussi Björling?
The natural manner of delivering his voice, which was he had such a beautiful natural timbre, and he never messed with it. It's always just straight out and very flowing, beautiful tones. So.
Yeah, perfect sort of, what you were...
Placement,
yes. Yeah. Ellen, you started also quite early, actually, in the theatre field. You were a child actor in Dramaten. You did several plays, but especially one play that I sort of noticed when I looked it up. It was, you played in Ingmar Bergman's dream play, Drömspel. And you played the role of Little Agnes, yes.
It's true.
Yeah. So I wonder, when did you start thinking about directing, or was it first being an actor, or how did you come into this?
Yes. Well, I started acting when I was 6, so I worked for almost 40 years. It's weird, but but I never really. Well, I sort of by chance got a small part in a small TV production. It wasn't something very big, but from then on I worked with Alexandersson De Geer, who made these movies about tårtan and tvätten and their movies, which was a wonderful place to sort of grow up, because it was such a creative and just crazy atmosphere. And then when I was 10. My best friend was going to an audition for this screenplay role, so I just went with her and I got the part. And well, I fell in love with the theater, really. There is this thing about, when the curtain falls or rises, and there is this special moment. I mean, it's the same with the opera. It just, every performance just happens once. There is a certain magic in that. But I never really thought about becoming an actor. Being a child who acts, that's different. You don't have to be very talented. It's more like, can you listen to an instruction? Can you stand where somebody tells you to stand and say the lines that somebody told you to say, sort of? There are, of course, very talented child actors too, but a lot of it is just taking instructions. So I just kept acting and loving being in this environment, and then when I was, I think, 14, I started to realize that acting was perhaps something different from what I was doing, and there was this, if you wanted to become an actor, you had to be interested in really getting under the skin of the character and really try to be somebody else, and I realized I wasn't so interested. I didn't have that urge, but I realized I wanted to stay in the theater, so directing was just sort of natural way of staying there, I suppose.
And you have done quite a lot of theatre. You've been working at Dramaten, at Riksteatern, and other places. Most recently you did the Feuilledots Förlovningen at Dramaten, and you also did Det blåser på månen quite recently. But you're sort of getting into the musical theatre field as well. What was it that made you get into this field? What is it that you like about opera?
There was an element of chance in that as well, actually. I didn't know a lot about opera, and I never really thought I could work with opera, but I was asked to do part of a television opera. There was a project that was done in 2008. I was one of 4 directors, and I got to choose a piece of opera. And I was very straightforward when I was asked to do this. I said, I don't know anything about opera. I'm not even sure I really like opera. I'm not sure I'm the right director for this. And they said, well, give it a try. So I was like, okay, I've been honest. I've told them what I thought, and they still want me to do it. I'll do it. And then I had this. There was a moment of falling in love. I was standing in a room at Operahögskolan with 2 students, and they were going to sing something from Don Giovanni, and I was just like, well, started, and they started singing, and I was blown away, and there was, well, I never really got over that moment. It's fantastic being in a room with music in that way.
You both came into opera sort of in spite of something.
In a way, yes.
Yeah. Domingo Hindoyan, I'm so happy to have you here again. You are quite a busy conductor. You've been conducting in Metropolitan Opera, Vienna Staatsoper Berlin, Lyric Opera of Chicago, and also major symphony orchestras such as the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and London Philharmonic Orchestra. You come from Caracas, Venezuela, but you live in Switzerland and Berlin, I understand. Yes, and during 3 years you were assistant to Daniel Barenboim as well. So, looking through your history of conducting work, you get the impression that you really like opera, because you have done quite a lot of opera, and especially Italian opera. So, what is it with opera that you like?
Good evening. Good evening. First of all, well, that's a question. I'm not from origin, from the base, an opera conductor. I was not born in Milano or in Frankfurt and doing the coaching or repetito. I'm actually a violin player, and I'm an orchestra musician. I play the big part of my life in an orchestra. So I come from the symphonic world. And then I was always a conductor, the curiosity about who's in front, the good things, the bad things. I was always an orchestra player, very attentive what's happening, because I wanted to do that job in the future. So my first time I played in an opera I was 16 years old in Venezuela, La Bohème. My father was the concertmaster of the orchestra, and I was playing okay violin for my age, and the orchestra called me to replace somebody who was sick, and then I sat in the last row of the second violins, which was great for me, because I could see all the time to the stage, and all the time playing and going looking at the stage all the time, and it really was the first time. And then of course I had a fantastic collection at home of CDs and scores, and I was always listening to it thanks to my father's education and so on. Later on, I came to Europe. I understood that it's so rich what is music and drama together. It's completely a different world. It's a different job from conducting symphonic or playing in a symphonic orchestra, like playing in an opera pit. There are two completely different jobs. I love both of them. But the opera, it gives... it has this magic of the text, has this magic of so many people at the same time working. It has this magic that every evening is different, because the human body is completely different. The singers are different. He's today so nice, tomorrow maybe not so nice. No, he's always so nice. Singers are totally different. It's another world. And then you have the stage directors. It's really so complete that, and also create, and you know it as audience, create kind of addiction. The voice, this timbre, the sound, you always want to discover what's going to happen, and what is the next step, and what is this phrase, and the high notes, and the low notes, and the speed, and so on. It's fantastic. So it's so rich that I have to stop now. Because
I wonder, what would you say are the skills that you really need as an opera conductor? What do you, compared to, as you said, it's so different to be in a symphony orchestra conductor and an opera. So what do you really have to know?
That is good to clarify. It's different a lot and not. You have to, first of all, be like a general conductor, be able to really express what you want with your body and avoid talking too much. Every musician in front of you will always like a conductor who does not talk too much. But the opera conductor requires, first of all, a knowledge, or as if maybe not, I'm not a singer, but I'm curious. I like the voice, and then I understand. Then an understanding, a knowledge of how the voice works. And the opera conductor requires a sensitivity about the libretto, the text, because everything was written in the orchestra has a relationship, direct and direct, or accompanied or comment, or is against what the theater is doing on the stage. So this sensitivity by the theater and the voice is something else that a symphonic conductor normally don't use, but sometimes also some symphonic pieces is with voice next to you and with text and with poems. But normally every conductor should have this, and then depends what you like or you don't like if you want to conduct opera or symphonic.
Yeah. So maybe we should talk a bit about this production, La Traviata, I think. So maybe I should start with you, Ellen, because this piece was written 1853. And it was, at that moment, it was a topic that was really up to date at that time, about Violetta, who is dying in this sickness, tuberculosis, and also her situation as a prostitute, luxury prostitute in Paris. And it was, of course, very much based on Verdi's own experiences and so on. But now we are in 2019. So why does Violetta have to die now? So what can we find in this piece that's still relevant for the audience today?
Well, I think I actually was surprised at how relevant it still is. First of all, I mean, it tells the story of love and of a relationship that society cannot tolerate. And I think that's still valid. I mean, there are young people in Sweden today who cannot choose their own partner or their own way of life. So in a way, it's much more, we say, up to date than I would wish it to be. It's not just a fairy tale from the 19th century. But I think I was very much interested in how, we say, the condemnation of Violetta and Alfredo and how their relationship, how we say, well, really how upsetting their relationship is to the society. Of course, in the opera, it's upsetting to the father who intervenes and doesn't want his son to live with Violetta. But in a way, it's also, I mean, if you try to sort of zoom out, you can see that, I mean, the father is also a victim of this very narrow-minded society, and he's also judged by the society. So in a way, they're all victims of a society where the person who steps out of line gets punished very severely.
Yes, when we played it in Sweden, from the beginning we sang it in Swedish, of course, because that was the tradition that you translated everything, because you didn't have this text machine and you couldn't translate, so you sang in Swedish. And then it was called Den vilseförda, the one astray, the one astray. She's actually singing, in the libretto, Violetta is singing about this. She's La Traviata. And for me it sounds, vilse, it sounds too soft in my ears, because I think she's really, I mean, she's dying, and it's quite a terrible story for her. Have you any thoughts about that? I mean, the title and how you should think about it?
I think this is kind of a long answer to your question, but I've been trying to think of the ways in which Violetta's life resembles my own, mostly because, I mean, sort of the first thought when you work with someone who's working as a prostitute, you just want to sort of push her as far away from yourself as possible. So I just wanted to keep her close to myself, and I've been thinking a lot about how her existence resembles mine or ours, and perhaps I've been thinking a lot about, these boxes with ballerinas in them, you lift the lid and she's forced to dance, and I think that's sort of an image for her life, but that's also what happened to us when we go on stage, in a way. I mean, the curtain rises at 7 and you just need to be there, whatever shape you're in. When somebody lifts the lid, you need to dance or sing or whatever. But in a way, I was going to somehow come back to the question, but how?
I think you already kind of answered it, because I think it's not only perhaps Violetta that is.
I think that's probably
It's
what
also Alfred and also the father. I mean, they are in this society. They thought things could be different, but they couldn't.
No, in a way, I mean, we're all vilseförda,
Yeah.
I suppose,
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
way of looking at it.
Yeah. Okay, singing Alfredo. What can you say about your music? Do you like the music Verdi has written?
I like it very much.
Yeah.
Verdi is so wonderful in his writing for singers. It's always just on the right spot. Some composers, I wish they could have transposed it maybe a half tone higher, half tone lower, but Verdi is always right in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So Alfredo has, I think, everything. He has the really lyric and the really dramatic and upset. So I think it's a real challenge to keep the lyric parts lyric and the dramatic parts dramatic. So not to reveal too much, not to keep the arc of the character going from the beginning to the end, because there's so much. There's joy, there is anger, there is anguish, and there's anxiety, and there's almost resentment. And but I think Verdi writes this so wonderfully for the voice that it's really just a joy to be able to portray this character.
Yeah. It sounds easy when you sing it, but
I'm glad it sounds that way.
So I heard from someone actually, an Italian source in the house, that your Italian is perfect. Absolutely perfect. So where did you pick it up in Rome or?
Yes, in Rome, and I think a lot of listening, very precise listening to how the Italians speak and how the vowels come through in the. I only listen to Italian singers when I'm studying something Italian. It's likewise in Russian or French. So I'm really just trying to find all the small little sounds and not to make it in Norwegian. Guttural, horrible sounds in the beautiful
you have
Italian
succeeded.
language.
You almost fooled this Italian.
Okay.
When she saw you, she understood that you were not Italian, perhaps. But in this interpretation, I think it's quite physical also for Alfredo. You have worked out this together, I think. So you're not just standing all the time. You are quite moving around quite a lot.
Being pushed.
You're being pushed and sort of. And I heard that you actually trained karate in.
No, judo.
Judo, sorry, judo. So you have been able to use those skills.
My falling skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your falling skills are immense, actually.
So is this important to be fit, to have a training program and so on?
I don't know. I think it's important to be very in tune with your body, at least when you're on stage as a singer. There are many things you need as a singer, like awareness of where you're on stage, and your awareness of where you are in relation to the conductor always. Like you have to have the prompters and awareness with your colleagues and all this. But I think it's also important to be able to be, I think, always in images, also from the audience's perspective, that I have to portray what's the situation, am I weak in this moment, am I above the rest, or like what's the image? So I think almost like a bit of choreography, So I think this is also important. This is just me, but I think it just makes maybe things more clear.
Yeah, and of course the body is your instrument in a way.
Yes.
So yeah. So the music, Verdi's music. What can we say about this fantastic opera? So dramatic and also so beautiful with so many fantastic melodies. How would you say that this is a sort of a bel canto opera, or how would you?
Yes, very interesting question. It's not for nothing that you played it here since 1868, you say?
Yes.
Such a long time, and it is still there.
Yeah.
And not only here, everywhere. And this is because, like all the good art pieces, the structure is perfect. and is round and is completely proportional everywhere. We don't realize this when we come to a performance and we're 2 hours there and so passionate and so on. But what is behind is just a perfect structure. Just to start from there, and then I can go to details very, very fast. 3 acts. The first act is the exposition. Who's Violetta? So it's quite kind of happy, the courtesan, etc. Second act is perfectly divided in 2, which is also the case in many productions. The happy moments together with Alfredo and development of the relationship. Turning point in the middle, conversation with the father, and then change of color, change of face, Violetta is somebody else, drama, and last act, descent, until the death. So going up, middle here, and going down. It's just perfectly round. It's very easy to say, difficult to play, and difficult to do. Then, with the music, first of all, let's talk about Violetta, which is the main character. Is one of the most difficult, role for every soprano. It's very often said, it's a very common phrase to say that we need 3 different sopranos to sing the perfect Violetta. Why? Because the first act, we need a soprano coloratura, it's all fireworks everywhere. In the second act, we need a soprano almost dramatic. And in the third act, we need this lyrical, soft lyrical with some leggerezze. At the end of the opera, after she have sang so many difficult things, at the end we need her to sing the delicate and fragile, which should be done by technique and talent and not because she's really tired on the performance. So it's so complete. Then we have the tenor, who is for Verdi's opera, especially when we take one opera before Traviata, which is Luisa Miller, I think, the tenors, they develop from tenori di grazia almost to dramatic tenors, almost Otello. Yeah? The Rodolfo from Luisa Miller is a tenor who starts grazioso, the tenor di grazia, and finish almost Otello. In this case, it's not the case. It's steady, almost the whole opera, apart from the famous Cavaletta that is very, very demanding, is this almost the same lirico, quasi-dramatico all the time, with the exception of the Cavalletta. But it has not this line. Verdi wanted it that way. And the baritone, Verdi has this special relationship with the fathers in his opera catalog. And this one, of course, is not at the level of Rigoletto or at the level of Miller, but requires a baritone with this beautiful high note, with virtuosity in his cabaletta. And in our case here, we are lucky. We have 3 fantastic interpreters of these 3...
Yes, we have Ida Falk-Winland as Violetta and Carl Magnus Fredriksson as Germont. Yeah, we should mention them.
What is different here from the bel canto repertoire is the orchestra also. The orchestra, it's not only accompaniment or comment of the orchestra; is part of the stage, and that's what we really try to do. The both preludes, first act and third act, are really itself. These both preludes they have so much content of the opera inside.
And it really are telling the story as well. I think we have had some rehearsals here when Ida didn't sing, and then you really heard what's happening in the orchestra. It's so interesting to hear it without singing sometimes, because you really get the feeling for how Verdi gets the drama much more sort of pregnant in the orchestra also. Yeah.
That's why this piece is so much played, because we can never get tired of it. It's so rich. The chorus is so rich and so important, and it's challenging for the stage directors and to find everything, for the conductor to really find the right colors, and not only chorus just being part of a party or something. It's really strong. We have these beautiful lines in the violins, in the fantastic famous melody in the clarinet. Piccolo, horns is so rich, the orchestra. It's not only papi, papa, papa, no. Here it's much more than that.
Yeah.
And even the Libbiamo, this that we know also for New Year's concerts and so on, which shouldn't be a happy piece actually. When we do it in the right place, is within the opera, it takes another dimension. It takes this dramatic dimension that is a happy music, but with a threat. Something will happen. This is not real happiness. Something will happen later. And this is sometimes that's why, as a conductor, sometimes I said, oh, Libbiamo, New Year's, or a summer concert. Maybe, no, I don't want to do Libbiamo. Because I have it in my mind, within the opera. And and not all operas are like this. I can just say Bohème and Nozze di Figaro, Traviata. These are this perfect piece of music that we always play so often.
He wrote it very fast also, and I think it was just in a few months that he wrote it, and I think you can feel it because it's only good dramatic music in this piece. So how will it look on stage? How much will you tell us here? Maybe you can say something, because Magdalena Åberg, she has done the sets and also costumes.
Yes, we've placed the opera in an anatomical theater. And this had to do with the way that Violetta is exposed, or she's very vulnerable. So we figured that actually the most vulnerable place to be is inside an anatomical theater, on the table waiting to be for the autopsy. So that's actually where we start, and that's also where the novel starts. I mean, you're waiting for an auction where they're going to sell Violetta's things. So we start about in the same place. And we also wanted to make visible the male gaze upon Violetta. So there's actually an all-male group at the first party, and they're watching her on the table. Well, we say it's an anatomical theater. In a way, I mean, we think that it's a half circle. It's half of an anatomical theater, and in a way, the audience is the other half of the anatomical theater. Then, of course, there's the party, and we're on the countryside and everywhere, so we're not, I mean, we don't have people walking around in doctors' coats and so on. We're not actually perhaps in an anatomical theater, but that's the image.
I don't think we should say so much more. Maybe it could be a surprise for the audience to see how this anatomical theater works actually. And you are moving in it. Is it hard to move in it? It's quite steep. Or how is it to walk around in this theater?
Yeah, it's in the beginning it was scarier, but now I'm getting used to it, and now it's not so scary anymore.
Good to hear. Yeah, I think we should round up this conversation. It's been very nice to have you here talking. But I'm, of course, curious what will happen next in your life. What will you do, Domingo? You said you had a lot of mails to answer, a lot of things to do tonight.
After Traviata, I have a few months of symphonic concerts, 1 week after the other. So. A lot of things to study and to prepare.
So much that you really can't remember.
Yes, exactly. And then I come back to opera in April, March. End of March, I come back to opera, and so on. Yes.
We are looking forward. I hope you will be back here also soon. And Ellen, what will be happening next in your life?
I'm staging Maj, Kristina Sandbergs böcker om hemmafrun Maj. At Dramaten. We're starting in the end of January and open in the end of March.
Yeah.
So that's also female.
Female theme.
Different,
but very different.
female, but still
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are similarities.
Okay, looking forward to that. And what about you, Bror Magnus?
Oh, I have a bunch of. Oh my God, December is going to be a nightmare.
Okay.
It's always Christmas concerts, and I have Beethoven 9 in Bamberg, and Mendelssohn Lobgesang for the first time I'm seeing also in 2 weeks. So that's going to be exciting. So and after that, I go to I believe it's Paris. I'm doing Frau ohne Schatten. I'm seeing a small part there, and then we go on tour to Hamburg and Rotterdam. And then I think I'm going to France again for Zauberflöte. Or if that's not next year, I'm not sure.
Okay, you will be you have a Tamino coming up.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I understand that it's important that you choose the right roles to get the best development for your voice and so on.
Yeah, you have to be smart with what you do at which time. So I'm trying to be smart.
Okay, I'm sure you are smart. Thank you so much for being here, and
Thank you
thank
very
you so much. And we have a premiere on Saturday, so welcome back.